Okay, I'm going to open the Tuesday, October 4th meeting of the Middleton Plan Commission. First item on the agenda is to call to order, which I did, and now it's roll call.
Adams.
Here.
Bruce.
Here.
Paniro.
Here.
Shaw.
Here.
Summers.
Here.
Paulson.
Okay,
Steve Paulson. Chair Sonntag is present.
thank you. Okay, we have a couple of public hearings tonight. The first one up is a 7 PM request, this is a 7 PM request to rezone 11.33 acres along Tribeca Drive from PUDG, Planned Unit Development General Development Plan, to MU-A Mixed Use Avenue. Fernando, do you want to start it all, or you just want to answer questions, whatever you want to do?
I'm happy to make a small
Sure.
presentation, if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know there's a lot of people here today, but hopefully it doesn't take up too much time. So yeah, good evening, everyone. If you could just go ahead to slide 2, please, Daphne. Just a little bit, I got a couple questions from a few different people that I've talked to the development about. And it was like, why the Lacrone? So that's actually the University of Wisconsin-Madison marching band director from 1969 to 2019. So he had quite the career. He's actually credited with growing the Wisconsin marching band to what we know today. Obviously,
Could you pause for just a second,
Sure.
please? I'm hearing from our commissioner that she's unable to hear the one who is zooming in. So I just want to check
Oh,
and
yeah, no
see
problem.
if our mics are working okay. Are we? And you're able to hear, are you able to hear him? Because we had issues with that mic last night.
You just tap on that. Tap.
Karen was very soft when she said here.
Yep.
You just keep, or just count for 1 second, just so I can adjust it.
sure, 3, 2,
You
1.
can move it a little bit closer to you if you want.
3, 2, 1.
Go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
She says not really.
There.
Didn't we change mics one night?
Yeah, we actually had issues with this one last night, but we didn't have Jeremy here to tell us that it was actually working okay. So,
Go ahead and keep going. I'll swap another one in
okay,
if need be, but I need them to keep going. You have to either keep talking or something so I can adjust
Okay.
it.
Go ahead, Fernando.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So, not to be redundant then, again, this development is named the Lacrone due to having such a wonderful history with the University of Wisconsin Marching Band. And we did receive his personal approval for the use of name and likeness for his community. And as you can imagine, he was pretty happy to provide that. So if Daphne, if you could go to the next slide. So this is an aerial of the site location. For those not familiar, it's those 11.33 acres that are just north of Parmenter. There are, I believe, there's a senior facility as well as other multifamily housing across the street. And I believe there is a stormwater retention pond that was planned to be a parking lot at one point off to one side as well. And we can go to the next slide, please, Daphne. Small correction here. Obviously, this is currently zone PUDG, but just wanted to provide a little bit more of a closer aerial there. Those two kind of L-shape buildings, I think are a little outdated, but those though are an affordable development. I believe not too long ago. And then the next slide, this is where I'd like to spend a little bit of time because obviously we're coming in for a rezoning. One of the reasons is that obviously right now it's not zoned for multifamily housing of this density. I believe the hotel would be applicable, but we are proposing as well 7 multifamily dwellings. The total unit count would be 415. As you can see, while I understand that, you know, the thought of this pre-COVID world and office was to have this office park and corridor, just the numbers post-COVID, only 56% of companies, you know, have said that they're going fully hybrid. 75% of companies have said that, you know, they just don't see the demand in doing local analysis. You know, there's vacancies of, you know, upwards of 40%, 30% in some areas. And without naming names, you know, there's places that are just fully empty. And I think that's a byproduct, obviously, of this new hybrid office world that we live in. And as you can see, as what was previously approved, that senior existing housing was formerly a previously big box retail, I believe was planned there, where that affordable development went. That was a grocery store that was intended to be planned. And again, as I mentioned, if you look, I guess, to the left there, that's previously loaned for office parking. Obviously, that's what was intended to be there when that PUDG was passed, but you know, that was then made a detention pond of some sort. So with that, I certainly don't want to be long-winded and certainly open it up for any questions or comments that the committee might have.
Yeah, we'll have ample opportunity to question you more further on the agenda, but just wanted you to give us a little update. Thank you, Fernando.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anybody here that would like, oh, wait a minute, you got to read something into the,
Did you open the hearing?
Yeah.
Oh, you
he
opened it at the
started
beginning?
before
Okay,
me.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, so I have an email from Alder Myers, which I'm now sharing on the screen. So he submitted this to us earlier today regarding the Lacrone, and so I'll just read what's there. He says, "Good evening, members of the Plan Commission. Thank you for your service to the city of Middleton. I have seen how contentious some of these rezoning public hearings and related meetings, sorry, I had to move some things around, can get, and I appreciate your committee's history of thoughtfully approaching the question of how and where we grow as a city. I am submitting this comment to share my own thoughts about that question as it relates to the Lacrone Holdings proposal before you today, as it is in my aldermanic district. I am not in principle opposed to this project. It contains workforce housing and will add to our tax base. These are both good things. However, by rezoning this area for an almost exclusively residential use, you will be making that area the entire community car dependent. That means no walking trips to neighborhood stores, no meaningful neighborhood park interactions unless you own a dog, and no real sense of shared community, just a series of bedrooms. It is my hope that if you do approve this project, you will do so contingent upon a design which includes some amount of retail space on the first floor, as this has worked well in other areas of Middleton. Thank you again for the work that you do for our city. I apologize for not delivering this comment in person. However, I'm at a License and Ordinance Committee meeting which conflicts with this hearing. Sincerely, Charles Myers."
thank you, Daphne. I'll then open it up, and we have one person that wants to speak tonight, and it's Mr. Connors, Bill Connors.
He's on the second public hearing, the
Oh,
one
that's the second one?
related to the lighting ordinance.
Oh, that's
Yep.
lighting, sorry. So that was it for the public hearing. Seeing no one else, I'm going to close the public hearing on the rezoning question and move to item 2 on public hearings, and that's the revision to the outdoor lighting ordinance. And now, Mr. Connors.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bill Connors. I'm the Executive Director of Smart Growth Greater Madison. I'm not here to be in favor of or oppose the proposed lighting code. I'm here just to provide a note of caution. Madison, not that long ago, adopted a new lighting code that was heavily influenced by a desire to keep skies dark, to be compliant with the dark skies guidelines. And the experience of the development community in Madison since that's been adopted has not been a good one. The regulations are so strict that it is very difficult in many situations to provide adequate lighting in parking areas and by entrances and exits to new buildings to provide enough lighting for people to feel safe and for people to actually be safe. It goes too far in limiting the amount of light, for example, that can exit go across the property line. And in the process of doing that, makes it so you can have only a tiny bit of lighting on the property itself. And so I'm just here to suggest that you might want to take a look at that if your staff hasn't already done so. Take some buildings that have been recently approved or constructed in Middleton and run them through again and see what sort of lighting would be allowed there. Work with somebody who's a lighting expert and see what that lighting would look like and see if everybody agrees that would be enough lighting to make people feel safe and actually be safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Seeing nobody else to speak to outdoor lighting, I'll close the public hearing on that. And we'll move to approval of the minutes of September 9th. Are there any changes, deletions, additions? If not, I'll declare the minutes approved. And we'll go to action and discussion items. Number 1, that's the sign design review for Valvoline at 2209 Deming Way. Recommendation from staff is to approve the sign with the following conditions. Locate the sign outside of the vision triangle, which is 30 feet requirement for Deming Way and outside of any easements. 2 is to reduce the monument sign height to 6 feet above ground level. And 3 is the staff approval of a landscaping plan for the base of the monument sign. With that, is there any discussion?
I had a small, I don't know if I want to say concern, but because we're talking about outdoor lighting, and we don't know how bright these internally lit signs are, and potentially they could be brighter than would really be acceptable for the neighborhood. It would be nice if they could incorporate some sort of dimmer system or some other means to control the amount of light output if we find it to be, and I say we, I guess I would leave it up to staff, so that it could be dimmed down if we thought it maybe.
Is there some kind of light output shown in the plan?
We did not get a photometric.
Okay.
Scott handled this agenda item. He did reach out to the applicant to get more information. I don't think he's heard back yet.
Yeah, we've not heard back from the applicant yet about the lumens or, you know, the photometric plan with the foot candles, but it does have yeah, so if that was added as a contingency, that's something that we could look at to make sure that
I mean, it's
it conforms to the.
pretty easy to add a dimmer,
Yeah.
especially before you assemble the thing, so, yeah. But other than that, I go ahead and make a motion to, with that addition to the staff recommendations, approve the sign.
There a second?
I'll second.
The second from Bruce. All in favor?
Well, can we get the item number 4 spelled out for us? So we know what we're voting on?
To have a,
Staff approval of,
my addition, you're asking?
Well,
yeah, Scott,
Daphne, did you write
how
it
would you
down?
phrase it?
It could be staff approval of a lighting plan that meets the city code requirements.
But I believe that his concern was also the sign, the lighting from from the sign, so the lighting plan would want to, if I understand correctly, incorporate the light output from the sign as well.
Right, because we got a photometric during site plan review, but it would need to be updated because we don't have it for the signs.
Correct.
Is that what we, okay. Stop approval.
And then I had a couple of questions. One, how will the landscaping work so as not to obscure any part of the sign? If we go to the. Because one of the contingencies is staff approval of landscaping plan.
Yeah, typically, this is something we require for all monument signs, and so they'll, have smaller like bushes along the bottom, like where you see that brick, so it lines along the bottom
Okay,
area.
and does something like this require native plants as 75% of the points?
I don't know if it would be 75%, but it requires, something like this would require maybe like 10 points total, something like that. So it could
Okay.
be very easy for them to include those native plantings in there.
Okay, and then did the designer just not understand the height limit? That it includes the base? And if that's what happened, I wonder, is that a problem with the ordinance or, I mean, that maybe the ordinance isn't clear? That the base is considered part of the height?
Is anyone representing this item on the Zoom by chance? I don't see anyone.
No.
I only flag it as, is our ordinance unclear?
That's something we can add to our list of things to look at for
Okay,
future
thanks.
updates.
Other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Turning over to page 2. Item 2 is the zoning map amendment for rezoning the PUD-G to MUA for the LaCrone. It's typical for us to vote on this the same day we do a public hearing.
I think what we're just looking for on this item is any
Just
feedback that you
feedback,
have
right.
that we could incorporate into our findings of fact at the next meeting.
So we have the right man here to hear to hear it, so. Any feedback?
Amy, was there any consideration to, and maybe this is for the applicant, to leave this within the existing PUD or PDD and just modify the general development plan and accordingly?
That was the original proposal that Fernando had brought forward, is to rezone it to PDD, but have strictly multifamily housing. Our staff recommendation is if you're rezoning it strictly for multifamily, we would strongly prefer that you select a standard zoning district, because one of the goals of the zoning code, as you know, was to try to rezone properties out of PDD. In our opinion, there wasn't anything unique about this particular proposal that would justify the PDD zoning. We also had recommended a mixed use component. And if that were to be the direction of the plan commission, it likely would require PDD because this is not on a corner. So even this request for MUA zoning, there would not be any ground floor commercial requirement because there's not a corner lot.
And that was kind of where I was kind of going with this, is if it goes MUA, we really don't have a lot more that we can do relative to design or input. The development was originally approved as a PDD, plan development.
Or
And
commercial?
yeah, with commercial uses, I understand why we're not seeing that. But, perhaps, I guess I'd like to open up for a discussion, the plan commissions, what their thoughts would be is about maintaining the PDD zoning, but using that as a way to try to maybe get a development that would be more in keeping with what we'd like to see there. So.
Yeah, and one thing I would mention is, if this were rezoned to MUA, there still would be another hearing requirement because, this project would require a conditional use permit for group development. So if there were interest in going the PUD direction in order to have more, input into the design aspect, it likely would not further delay this project. I think Fernando will agree that when we met, my concerns with the proposal is that we were looking at 8 buildings that were very similar in height, and in my opinion, it didn't meet the vision of the mixed-use neighborhood that we had kind of initially approved a rezoning for Tribeca. So my concerns are very similar to the concerns that Alder Myers had read into the record.
I'll add, I have those same concerns. I mean, I really appreciate the emphasis on walking, you know, having a walkable neighborhood, but the question I had is where would people be walking to? If there's commercial, for example, a coffee shop and a restaurant that aren't perceived as being strictly part of the hotel, but rather open to the public, there for the public, and just also serving the hotel. That would give people something to walk to. I also think the identical height of all the buildings is a little problematic for me. I note that the original plan was to have a couple of 6-story residential or office buildings. The hotel that's included in the original plan was envisioned as 6 stories, and I'm wondering if there's a way to increase a couple of these buildings to 6 stories and build in ground floor commercial space.
Well, let me say this. The, we need a zoning amendment first before we get to any kind of project here. So I guess the question is, are we all feeling comfortable with how it's presented here in terms of a zoning change?
I think the answer would be no, because as MUA, there's no corner, so no commercial would be required.
So MUA may not be the right designation. You want to go back to PDD or PUD?
I think that's what I was suggesting might be an appropriate way to handle it, to stay within the PDD. I'm not even saying that we don't end up with a majority residential development. I think we will.
Mm-hmm.
But the PDD does give us a little bit more latitude in terms of what we can ask for. Whereas once it goes MUA, there's really nothing other than what the zoning limitations are. For this developer or any other developer, it's MUA, and
Mhm.
all right, we're done.
Okay, how do you feel about?
I agree. I
Okay.
mean, the letter of intent brings up a few points that they were going to have in here, but I didn't see this. I didn't see a dog park. The Olympic sized swimming pool seems to be small. I don't know about where, public art you put in a lot of places.
I'm just talking about PUD now.
I know. Okay, yeah, I'll stick to that. And so I agree.
I'm
Nick?
pretty much the same way as
Okay.
everybody else, sharing the same concerns. It'd be nice to be able to kind of allow this to be a truly have amenities that people will actually walk to.
Mhm.
This is not a very well connected area at all in terms of mass transit.
Right.
I mean, it is getting better with bike transit. Now the Parmenter is almost done, but yeah, this, without any commercial here or without any ability to have commercial here, it does really make this a very car dependent area.
Well, let's go away from the PUD at this point. I just want to talk about commercial. Right now, commercial is so overdeveloped because there's vacancies all around. I mean, some estimates are, it's gonna be 20 years before we fill what we've got now. I mean, we in this total Madison area. So I'm really concerned about putting any kind of commercial there, especially first floor. I mean, you look at across the street, there's no commercial, even though we put it on the first floor. And Terrence was given permission, I think, at one point to convert some of that first floor space to units, residential units, because commercial wasn't working. So I'm not overly concerned about putting commercial in this spot. So I think it makes sense for residential because, hey, we've got a plan for residential. There's a tax base there, tax base that we're not going to get for commercial. I don't know what we're going to do with the stuff that we've got now that's being vacated.
But you,
So-
you're talking about office space specifically?
I'm talking about commercial office space, yeah. Anyway, that's just my thought on commercial aspect of this thing. And I agree to your point, Randy, it's gonna be residential for, whatever, for the most. I think that's what you said, right? Yeah.
I agree or I share your concern about office space, but certainly retail and restaurants are, I mean, this is, the original development plan was for Tribeca Village.
Mhm.
And the applicant even says that this would be a community, a new community they're trying to create. Again, what are the services? It's not just we don't need another residential village. We need a place where people from the senior housing and the existing multifamily housing can also walk to something. I think there's a great opportunity for coffee shops, restaurants, services, all in this location. And then as a member of the Water Resources Management Commission, I look at this and I see a lot of pavement. And I'm wondering, could increasing the height of some of the buildings allow the use of the first floor for parking under the building? Maybe not underground parking, but certainly under the building. Again, just to get a little variation in the exterior of the buildings and to eliminate some of the surface parking.
Well, that's certainly possible. The detention pond that was there was originally for a parking ramp to serve commercial. And since that's gone, we really don't have much of an opportunity to make tall commercial buildings, but certainly you could ask for first floor coffee shops and commercial, but getting somebody in there is going to be tough. Because you're not even filled up across the street where they have it.
If I could just quickly chime in, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole because I realize this is rezoning, but I do want to be respectful of, if the question's out there.
Yeah.
To go vertical, there's a couple things there. I believe there's an airport height restriction. So
Mhm.
some of those buildings just can't go higher. And just quite frankly, once you go 5 stories, it becomes quite cost prohibitive. And where interest rates are right now, we're doing what we can to make a deal work and feasible, and certainly maximize density. But back of the envelope math, it's about 100,000 more per unit once you add that 5th floor, just because you're adding construction costs that otherwise would not be needed if you go 4 floors. In regards to the ground floor retail, completely understand. I love it myself, but it's just not where the market is right now. I think we've all been on cars and driving. I live in Madison, and there's these gorgeous buildings that have vacant ground floor retail. right now, what is being absorbed, and obviously being built because of that is standalone retail. And that's not what we're proposing here. And again, I do believe that if direction was to go ground floor retail, obviously we want to be collaborative and again, we're not having those discussions now. I just think those would be very extremely tough to fill.
Well, there are examples of ground floor retail that are working, like Sequoia Commons is a big one that I think is full. And I know there are others, so I recognize it's a challenge. We've got the Middleton market that is still developing. I just feel like, again, the concern is everybody who lives in this new development will need to rely on a car for their trips. And that's not something that Middleton aspires to.
I think there's reasons beyond, just the introduction of, commercial space to use the existing PDD zoning. You know, at a minimum, I'd like to see this development incorporate with the surrounding developments better, so that the traffic flow between developments was more logical, the pedestrian connections were more logical. You know, I'd like to see what we could do in terms of, maybe creating a strong streetscape along that, as that Tribeca Drive to the extent possible. I would love to see a coffee shop or some kind of focus there. Maybe that's a community space that's also the development, but it allows for interaction with the other neighbors perhaps. My concerns more with this site is it's the last bit of a PDD, and I think just giving away all the city's input by rezoning it to MUA would, it doesn't do the development justice, I don't think.
All right, so when we vote on the
So
change?
we'll complete the findings of fact, probably this upcoming week, and then that will be at your next meeting.
The 28th?
Yeah, on the 28th, and that's when we'll vote on the rezoning.
Can I ask the applicant a bit about the workforce housing component?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. So about 20% of the units are going to be within an income band that would be considered workforce housing or affordable units under the WIDA standard.
And are they going to be restricted with some sort of agreement with the city or through WIDA tax credit program?
That's a great question as well. So we won't be seeking WIDA financing on this project, but certainly open to discussions with the city in regards to, how you would want that memorialized.
And how do you, if I can, how are you defining the 20% of the units? Which units are they, and how big are they, and what's the rent levels?
Yeah, so it's still obviously somewhat in concept. So that, in great detail is still being spelled out. So I don't want to speak out of turn. We just know that, in kind of penciling the deal at a granular level, 20% for a round number, or we're looking to have that as a workforce housing component for the project. So it's primarily going to be probably, 1 bedrooms and studios. But again, don't quote me on that because we're still in concept.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah,
Did
sure.
I understand correctly that you are open to income restrictions for the units? So not only making them affordable at 60% AMI, but also restricting the occupants' income levels to 60% AMI?
So, I guess let me clarify. So we're meeting, that WIDA requirement, but we're not, going in as, quote unquote, a rent restricted development. So, we wouldn't fall under, a land use restriction agreement or anything of that sort.
So
Okay.
you wouldn't be open to discussions with the city about that?
Having Allura,
Mhm.
I doubt that any, market rate development has done that in the past. So,
That's not the question.
I mean, I think we're
it's a
putting the
yes.
cart in front of the horse just a little bit because we're talking about rezoning. But to answer your question directly, I guess we would be open to having discussions.
The reason that I brought it up is because it was part of your application or your presentation about the workforce housing. I was just trying to get a feel for what that really meant. Does it mean that we're going to have workforce housing in perpetuity? Does it mean that the rents right now are just meet, a level that WIDA says is affordable? And to what income range? We don't know that yet either.
Sure.
So it's, yeah, certainly if we had some workforce housing, it makes the development more attractive. I mean, and by workforce housing means something that would be here in Middleton for an extended period of time.
Understand. Your message is well received on both counts.
Fernando, just a follow-up though, you said when you were responding to the question about the Laura, you said you doubted any market rate developments had done that. Are you considering the project market rate?
It's a mixed use development. It's just, it would be a misnomer to say that, it's a workforce development because 20% of the units fall under that guideline. But, it is a, development that wouldn't fall under, getting tax credits.
So 20% of the units fall into the 60% range because that is the market rate for the studios and the one bedrooms. Do I understand that correctly?
It's not necessarily the market rate, it's the rents that we're going on level with. And I don't think it would be within 60% income band. There is an 80% income band within the workforce housing component.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to ask a question about parkland. But first, can the staff confirm the airport height restrictions? Because my read tells me that a 6-story building would not exceed.
Yeah, so the airport height restrictions are on, our engineers added them in here. So this is the 1050 max height, and I believe this area is around like 950 for elevation. So it would allow, around 8 stories or so comfortably. So it should be within that height limitation.
Okay, thank you. And then with regard to parks, what is the distance from this development to the planned park at Bell Farm and also at the Garden District? I'm just wondering, again, looking at this map and thinking of all the housing in this area, would it make sense to scrap the not quite Olympic-sized pool and pickleball courts for parkland? Mr. Chair.
I was gonna ask the same thing. Cause is the Bell, do we have a map that's zoomed out a little further or no?
I can just pull up the aerial if
That'd
that
be fine.
works.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So I'm trying to figure out if the Bell Farms Park, I think
The Bell Farms.
it's not on this, the future park is not on this map, I don't think.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I just measured it like not as the crow flies, but in terms of like walking distance from about the center north to south of this proposed project, heading north along Tribeca Drive and then north along Parmenter Street. And it's about 2,600 feet. So it's more than half a mile.
Okay.
Yeah, I look at this and I think when fully developed, is this going to be another situation like the southwest, the Greenway Station part of the city where we desperately need parkland and there's no land available?
Yeah, and this is a pretty decent distance away from the future Garden District Park as well.
Mhm.
And, it's not, you have to cross Century Avenue to get down there.
Mm-hmm.
This would be an area, especially with the existing units that are there, this would actually probably be a very good location for a public park. Although we'd have to probably have, I don't know if we'd have to discuss this probably, or have Kylie pull up the data on that.
Mhm.
Is park areas, park service area maps. But there is not much. Yeah, this would probably be a very good location for a small park.
And that would reduce the fee in lieu. Is that something you would consider?
Well, absolutely. As we're going through the process, we certainly want to be collaborative and certainly are open to what the committee has as feedback. Obviously, we have to, you know, talk to our architects and see how, that reduces density, but we certainly want this to be a collaborative effort.
Your Alder Hanero put up or raised the question about the amount of surface parking, which I agree, we've got a lot of pavement there. Is each building, it looks like, has 33 underground stalls, which doesn't seem all that significant given the size of the footprint. Is the entire basement being used for parking? Do you know?
Well, there's certainly going to be mechanical and things of that nature, but I don't want to speak out of turn too much without my architect, so I can certainly take that question down and come back with a little bit more information.
On page 49 of the packet, you mentioned multifamily buildings will also include co-working spaces that tenants can use as needed, as well as Zoom rooms for remote workers. I really like that idea, and that could be something to consider. It's not quite retail or commercial, but it's a destination for people to walk over to that building because there's a nice co-working space where they can gather with other people who are working from home. I think that would be a great amenity to have.
Any other input?
Yeah, the only other question related to the parking would be one of parking ratios. I guess I didn't spend enough time looking at what your parking ratio you're proposing is. Do you know offhand?
Ooh, I can tell you that it meets the code. There you go. Thank you so much. If you go to the right.
Yeah, it looks like it's 1.24 parking spaces per unit.
So you mentioned renters by choice being a target for this. Does your market research show that the renters by choice are also big into cars, or are they sometimes, transit people?
That's a great question. So I would say that this development is going to be a mix of, young professionals, maybe some empty nesters, divorcees. I do know that, since I've been in Dane County, I use the bus a little bit more than I used to. And I think that as a whole, Dane County is going that way. I'm not going to say that we have done the research to say like what this community is going to use as far as public transit. But my thought would be that in seeing kind of national trends and in Dane County making public transit a focus, I think over time you can see some of that. I don't believe that everyone intends to be car dependent, but I certainly respect your feedback.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, as an empty nester, once I'm ready to move into an apartment or a condo, I will also be downsizing cars. Most of the people I know are giving up their second car. So I just mention that because again, concerned about all the pavement. Our zoning code does allow for flexibility on the parking ratio. The plan commission can approve a reduced amount that would be of interest to you. And then I think ahead, this goes beyond your development, but I think ahead to transit being growing. And this is not my district, but just to the east of it, it is my district. And I can see opportunities for new bus routes or a change to existing bus routes to serve the area that's being heavily developed right now.
There's gonna be quite a bit of density.
Yep.
Mhm. Any other input for our applicant?
No, I just would, the suggestion was made to go taller to provide the possibility for more parking within the building. I think that's one option. There might be other options in terms of design that would allow you to get the more parking covered, so that we just didn't see as much asphalt on the surface as we do now. I think it'll help with the stormwater as well, and certainly helps with just the livability of the community.
So I think, they've gone about as far as they can at this point without having a place really, because it's not approved. So that's our next job, is to approve the zoning when it comes to 28th. And then you're gonna be working on the plan
Correct.
in the meantime? Okay. So we're far off. I mean, it's way down the road
But-
yet.
But, I mean, I'd want to encourage the developer to continue on with the discussions and the project, because I think we do want more housing,
Mhm.
so.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you, Fernando.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to item 3 on the agenda, which is a revision to the lighting ordinance. And we're just looking for some feedback for staff on the lighting ordinance based on public input, which basically is smart growth medicine.
I had a question about wording on page 100. It's new paragraph number 6. Yep, the red one. So it refers to waivers, exception, and exemptions. And I just want to make sure the wording is crystal clear. It could be that those are 3 different things, but I just flag that wording as something to maybe tighten up in the final version. And then we did get some written comments, specifically about 7621 Terrace needing to be downgraded. I don't know if you have a map to show that. The parcel abutting, well, actually, 7621 Terrace doesn't even abut a downgraded parcel or a conservancy parcel. But I brought this up last time. We say in the document that if it's conservancy zoning, that's when it's 1 level down. But this area south of Terrace Avenue, it may be the Quarry Hill Conservancy, but it's zoned institutional. So I think we need to, again, be very clear about what we mean. Do we mean zoned conservancy, or do we mean functions as a conservancy? Because if it is zoned, then there are probably other places too on this map that we might need to change the different lighting districts. And I would not agree that 7621 Terrace needs to be downgraded.
Alder Hanero, Is this comment that you received recent?
These are in the packet.
Oh, okay, from the
Yep,
last time,
there were
okay.
three-
I just
yeah,
wanted to
I'm
make
sorry,
sure
there
that
were-
we had a
they were
copy of.
from, I
Sure,
think,
there were
August,
three,
yeah.
emails.
Thank you.
Other discussion, input for staff?
Did we ask someone like PKK Lighting about Mr. Connor's concerns about having such restriction that the parking lots and entryways could not be made safe and still be compliant?
We didn't work with PKK Lighting, but we did run the ordinance by Dan Cowell, who was he was one of the representatives for the Middleton Medical Collaboration Building. Because that was also kind of going on at the same time we were discussing these. And so that we did run through, a lot of that language with him. And so, and part of his development was to be approved with, you know, the draft of this lighting ordinance, and so he was able to work it out for that project at the very least. And they did have a larger parking area in the front of their building that he was able to light under this ordinance.
Right, there's some fairly well shielded lights available. I would think that it could be made to work, but I don't have the expertise.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well,
I don't know.
is it, how do we address,
Yeah.
Mr. Connor's concerns about, about the lighting that he's brought up? Is it something that we can look at, independently of a particular project, or take a look at an older project and just see, have a lighting designer just evaluate it? I don't know.
That's a good question. I was gonna ask Bill if he could come up to the mic and is there, I know you've gotten feedback, as you mentioned, from developers on the lighting issues. Is
Yeah.
there something maybe it's us working with you or a certain developer that may help us?
Yes, I'm in the process of reaching out to our development community and the lighting, through them, the lighting experts they work with
Right.
to make sure that we can get some sort of evaluation on that. But I will, if you're in, if we want to do sort of an exercise, let's pick a few recent projects and try to apply the new code to them. I will do my best to try to find some lighting experts that will be willing to participate in that.
Okay. Thank you. That help?
Well, it seems to me, because Daphne, I remember the situation you were just talking about, and we did have that applicant come to us with a concern that to do what we were asking in our lighting code, it would cost, I don't know, twice as much,
Mhm.
because he'd have to put more lights in to
Right.
cover all the area.
Mhm. And that was actually under our current lighting ordinance that he was finding he would have to, I think he added like 8 more lights to his parking lot because of the lighting ordinance that we have currently.
And he was ultimately okay doing that? Or
So
did he change the?
So
approach?
we granted him approval because it was a PDD to use this draft. And so he was able to make his lighting work with this as it was drafted at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, and, yeah, we didn't make that many changes in the previous draft of it. So, yeah, the main portion of it was using that ANSI, which is an industry standard.
Nancy?
And so he was, and that's something that they're all familiar with. And so he, said that would work for him. But yeah, we can certainly pull some of the more recent projects and look at the photometrics and how they would work for, this ordinance.
Well, and it seems to me, it isn't that it would be impossible to provide for safe parking lots. It just might increase the cost to the developer or require a rethinking of the size of parking lots. But, you know, if our goal is to protect our conservancy lands and make sure that the night sky is a night sky, I think, again, it requires some adjustments for everybody.
Mhm. And the waiver section that we will rewrite for the wording, it does allow you guys to, you know, review that lighting and grant exceptions if the safety is a big concern.
Okay. Other input for staff? Seeing none?